So in today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys the actual story behind why I decided to walk onto the football team at Ohio State. I think it's really important to have a strong reason why you want to walk on or why you want to do anything really, because the surface level motivation goes away pretty quickly, and then you'll be left wondering what the hell you're doing when you're waking up at 4 a.m. So the story behind why I decided to walk on personally, it all started in high school. Actually, it started when I was a kid. I've always wanted to go to Ohio State. I never really thought about playing football there, although football was my main sport growing up. I never really even thought of college football in general. It was just something that wasn't really on my radar. So I get to high school and I start taking athletics a lot more seriously. I'm training a lot harder and sort of gearing up for, my senior season, which I thought was the end all be all. And my grandpa was actually my biggest supporter growing up in sports in terms of, he was the guy that was always first in the stands. He was always cheering me on and sort of, pushing me to progress in my athletic career, him and my father both. Once I got to my senior year, I never thought about playing football in college, so I sort of just decided not to do it. I had a couple opportunities to potentially play, lower D1 or D1 AA or D2 or whatever they were at the time. But I ultimately decided that I wasn't going to do it because I really wanted to go to Ohio State because that was my main dream school. And so I actually got deferred from Ohio State and then waitlisted by Ohio State, which means they put me on a wait list and they were like, yeah, you're like right on the border. We might let you in, we might not. And I ended up getting accepted to the university the final day of my senior year. So that was pretty crazy. And then I get to Ohio State. It's my freshman year, 2014, and Ohio State actually wins the national championship. So right when I get there, I'm like, wow, man, I was like super into football again right away, hooked on football, because I saw them win the national championship, and I was like, this is like, that would be the dream for me to be out there. And I thought for some reason in my head, I just was like, oh, I could easily be out there. Like, I was really good in high school. Like, I could definitely at least be a walk-on. So that was sort of the first seed that was planted in my mind, was thinking that I could do it. And then shortly after that, my grandpa, he always wanted me to play college football, and he was super excited about the Ohio State National Championship, but he actually had cancer at that time and ended up passing away about a month after the national championship, I would say. And so right before he passed away, I ended up going to him. He was literally in hospice on his deathbed, and I told him, hey Grandpa, like, I'm gonna walk on to the football team at Ohio State. And he probably wasn't coherent enough to even understand like what I was saying. He was probably sleeping at the time anyway, but the fact that I did that and said that really meant something for me, and I know he's watching over me, and I had to keep that promise. So when he ultimately passed away, I decided to pursue my dream and pursue the promise that I made to him. And so I trained for about the rest of that entire year, and I tried doing several different things. Like I went to the students fastest race, ended up winning that competition, got to run in the spring game, and ended up I don't know, I was trying to impress the coaches by being fast, I guess, and it didn't work at all. Nobody noticed anything, nobody reached out to me or anything. So that didn't work. I actually tried that twice. I trained for about a year for football. I decided I was ready for the tryout, and I started reaching out to a ton of coaches. Obviously nobody responded to me, because why would they? These are some of the top coaches in the nation. They're not looking at their emails like, oh yeah, let's take on this random high school kid. So for anybody out there thinking about walking on, no one's gonna respond to you, and it doesn't matter. You gotta figure out everything on your own and just keep taking consistent action toward your goal. So for me, that meant finding who was in charge of walk-ons, and then from there it was finding out when is there a tryout. And then essentially what ended up happening is I found out that there was a tryout in August, and so I trained for the remainder of that year, which was about 6 more months. I actually picked up a job at a fitness company called Rogue and trained the entire summer essentially just for football. And the tryout was in August, which I thought was weird because the season would already be started by that point. but I decided to go anyway because I think each school has to have, I don't know if they're required to, but at least they do it every year, even if they don't decide to take, you know, new walk-ons on the team. So I show up to the tryout in August, and basically I'm fully prepared. I'm ready to go. I've trained for this for a long time. I'm thinking like I'm gonna go out there and crush it and like have a good shot to make it. And I ran a really good 40. I think I ran a 4.5 and then I ran a 4.00 shuttle, and then a 4.10 shuttle the second time. So my shuttle was really good. I think I got really lucky on the first clock, the 4.00. But essentially, at the end of that tryout, they actually kept a couple extra kids around, but they dismissed me pretty much immediately, as well as all the other kids. And they told us they didn't have roster spots, and I was really bummed out. But they kept a few extra kids around, and they were basically telling those kids that they kept around to like do some extra drills. And then after they did the extra drills, they told them, yeah, we don't have roster spots, but we'll look out for you in the winter tryout. So just be ready for the winter time, is what they told those kids. So they didn't tell me anything. I just got totally let off the hook and basically dismissed. I actually that night had to fly out for my competition on American Ninja Warrior, which was really crazy because I had to push the flight back for that show, take a red eye out, and then compete on that competition. We ultimately lost in that competition as well. So I was feeling super defeated after that weekend. I didn't make the football team. I lost on American Ninja Warrior, and I came back pretty much just crushed. And then I had really no other option but to just start working out and training again. I mean, I could sit there and like feel sorry for myself, but I mean, that wasn't gonna help me either. So I decided to just keep working out and doing my thing. And then I randomly got a text message in the winter time that said, hey, like there's actually another walk-on tryout. It was a friend of mine. He sent me a tweet from the Ohio State Athletic Department that said there was gonna be another walk-on tryout. And I was like, wow, that's weird. And it just so happened that the tweet was like a couple hours before and the tryout was in 2 hours. So I packed up my backpack, literally ran right out of the building, and then ran home, grabbed my cleats, and then ran 2 miles of facility and did the entire tryout again. Essentially did just as well, maybe even a little worse than my first tryout. And then the same walk-on coordinator lets me go again without saying anything and keeps a couple other kids around. So at this point I'm thinking, wow, man, like I've done all this stuff, I'm screwed, like I didn't make it again. And I was gonna try and go talk to someone, and then out of nowhere, the safety GA comes up to me, and it's like right before I leave, the safety GA comes up to me and he's like, hey man, where are you going? And I was like, oh, like, I mean, I didn't get chosen to stay around or whatever. And he was like, yeah, why don't you stick with me? We need to go through some extra drills. And I was like, oh dang, okay, so this might be my opportunity. So I ended up going through extra drills with the safety GA, and then the main walk-on coordinator comes up to us all afterward and he asks us all our GPA, our position, all this different stuff. And then asks us like a couple different questions about our classes, like when our classes are scheduled. And then ultimately right after that, he was like, yeah, we'll be in touch. I go home, and then the next day I received a text message that said, be at the Woody, which is our athletic center at Ohio State, at 5 a.m. on Monday, which means that we made it essentially. So it was a super crazy journey. The reason I ended up doing it, like I said, was for my grandpa. So I'm super glad I got to, you know, keep the promise to my grandpa. But to all you guys out there who are trying to walk on and who want to do something similar, make sure you guys have a good reason why you're doing it, because it's gonna keep you going when the times get really tough. I remember during two-a-days or before a big team run or in the middle of a workout when I was dying, I'd be like, I mean, I was the one that wanted this opportunity. I'm fulfilling my promise to my grandpa. Like, I'm not giving up now after all the stuff that I've been through. So having that thing to kind of fall back on and that bigger purpose to sort of attach yourself to is crucial for when you're walking on somewhere. Either have something like that or have some really strong internal emotion. Like you want to, I mean, it's not always the greatest, but proving people wrong is a big one. and just make sure it's something solid. But I hope that helps you guys. That's my story, and I'm gonna be having more content for you guys coming out soon. And if any of you guys need help with training or diet, stuff like that, reach out to me on YouTube or Instagram. Glad to help you guys out. With that said, take care guys, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Also quickly, say hi to Bob Ross right here.